I thought we were going to be at TEDxYouth Lovedale. I want the youth to scream for me. That's better. Now that's some kind of energy we've got to trap in this room today, okay? Breaking barriers. Before I start, I want to tell you this is a Microlight, and the sheer design of this machine, I think they came into this world about 20, 25 years ago. The design itself broke barriers because the concept of general aviation was really with large aircrafts or with military aircraft, and we'd heard of planes in which people trained to become pilots. This design actually helped to break barriers in terms of making aviation very affordable. And though my discussion today and my talk to all of you today is really not about designs of microlights, I thought I'll let you know that something like this, which was conceptualized by some individuals in this globe, also broke barriers. I came in here yesterday, and ever since I've been in this space, I have felt an energy that is, of course, very youthful because I've been interacting with a lot of young adults since yesterday. And right in this space, I know that we have a lot of energy here which has been trapped, and I think this is an energy that is also filled with a lot of hope. I was growing up in a little town, and at the age of 5, I saw an aircraft whiz past the sky during break time. I was, that day itself, filled with a kind of hope. Hey, that's something I want to do. I want to fly. I thought that was flying. I wanted to fly. It took me 10 years to be able to sit in a cockpit as a trainee. I joined the National Cadet Corps. And my first sortie with an instructor on board in a glider, I was filled with hope that someday I am going to fly this plane as pilot in command. During the NCC, I got a lot of training. I even went on to win some medals. But my real solo came when I joined a flying school, again, to get a gliding license, which was not the trend then. But my first solo is something that is an unforgettable experience. If you ask most pilots what is that wow moment, it would be their first solo. After landing, after my first solo, I was already, filled with hope again. I was hoping that I'm going to be able to fly others as well. 3 years after that first solo, I had moved into this spectrum of microlights. You just saw the picture. And I was already beginning to take others up in the sky. And every time I landed, it was a wow feeling, passing on this wonderful, exciting feeling of getting airborne to others. I was already hoping that I don't want to limit myself to flying others. I want to teach flying. I want to pass on the art of flying to others, share this wonderful knowledge that I have. My story goes on. My life still goes on. But the one constant that I've had all along is hope. So of the many things I've done in my life, I worked with children for an entire decade very closely between the age groups of 8 to 16. And I was running aerosport camps. These were residential outbound programs where I got in children from schools across the country. And we were taking up children one at a time, introducing them to the medium of air and giving them a concept of air-mindedness, developing that, also taking them up parasailing. That decade had a huge impact on my life. I realized I was somebody who liked to be around this age group of 8 to 16, 5 to 16. I was loving it. I realized I was a natural with them as well. And I had started hoping, seeing so many schools, I was hoping that someday I could start a school of my own, a place of my own, and create an environment for children in which I believe they would thrive. And I don't think I'm very far away from that dream. I managed to set up a school. I started with very small steps with 8 children a decade ago, a school that I called I Can. Today, a decade later, we have about 230 odd kids. And the best part of it is we're resonating this slogan, this attitude, I can. And we're believing that children can be put into a space where they believe that they're global citizens, that they're going to contribute to change, that they have hopes and aspirations, and they want to live their dreams as well. So it all sounds so wow, doesn't it? So if you've listen to what I've said till now in my wonderful introduction, then by the age of 42, it looks like, wow, this lady here has, hit a lot of highs. But luckily, you do a lot of ground studies as well, and someday you'll learn some lessons in meteorology. I think the world around us, we're already learning a lot of lessons in meteorology with weather patterns changing. So in meteorology, you learn, and it's backed by a lot of physics, that if you hit a high, you are going to hit a low as well. And when you hit, these air pockets of pressure systems coexist. There is a pressure, an area of high pressure, and absolutely next to it will be an area of low pressure. So it's not that I've only hit highs. Yes, I've also hit lows like everybody else. And maybe what I've done with my life so far qualifies me to probably stand here today and share a bit of my story with you in a limited time span of a few minutes. So I'm posing a challenge to everybody sitting here today, the youth, the young adults, the parents, a lot of speakers, that can you live life microlight? So that's my challenge, and hopefully by the end of this little talk, I'd make a little more sense. Now, all of you, when you were, you'd agree, especially the students out here, I'll track a little bit of your journey. You're born. From a newborn, you become an infant, and then you become a toddler, and then you become a preschooler. Then you move into this so-called spectrum of schooling. There's primary, middle school, and high school. And you're a young adult now, a teenager typically, but a young adult. Now, from the time you were born, your milestones and everything important in your life starts getting recorded and trapped, isn't it? So you have a medical file, and it's ticking all your inoculations and your health charts and your head circumference, and all of that gets trapped. Later on, you come to school, and then there's progress reports, evaluation reports. Your teachers are marking you for everything that you do. And, unfortunately, this whole information system of trapping information about our children doesn't really cater for trapping our little dreams. So we don't have a system where we've trapped the dream of a little child, and maybe there were little dreams, maybe there were big dreams, and it somehow gets lost as we grow older. And I think our parents sometimes would laugh with us and sit back with us and say, hey, when you were little, you said this, and everybody's having a good laugh. But the same parents, when they grow older, like, you're not listening to me anymore, and you're doing your own thing. But our dreams didn't get trapped. So by a quick show of hands over here, I just wanted to know, irrespective of the age that we have in the audience, do we have a dream? It could be at the age of 40 plus. It could be at 17, 16, a little more, a dream. Great. Thank you. That's what I expected, many hands going up. And from today's talk, I think so many of you all will be inspired to do many more things. And your dreams could include, again, with my interaction with so many of you all, I've understood that somebody wants to get into aeronautic design and make changes there. Somebody wants to work with civil society. I believe there's going to be this whole contribution to evolution. And there's going to be, there are dreams of design changes. And I'm so happy with what you all saw, in the previous presentation by Mr. Kamal. I'm sure you're already having dreams of doing so many things. But did anybody confuse my question with career? I was not asking you if you had a career choice. I just wanted to know if you have a dream. So can I ask again? Do you have a dream? Nice. Great. And how many of you here is possibly thinking of sharing your knowledge and passing on these experiences to others? Does anybody maybe want to be a teacher? Thank you. I saw 3 hands, maybe. Sometimes, at a later stage in your career, you might contemplate becoming a teacher and sharing with children as well, and just contributing to education. But I wasn't wanting to confuse you about being a guru. I was just wanting to check if you want to be a teacher. Now, nobody asked me all these questions when I was growing up. And I Whatever I have understood so far in my life comes with my many experiences. So as a student, my experiences were largely filled with traveling in local buses, getting from point A to point B. A lot of travel in local buses, student community, playing sports, being part of youth groups, school and college, of course. And I had, perceptions about life. And the transition happened when I became a parent. And I'm now interacting with parents. In fact, as an educator, I have to interact with parents. And I see that, I've got a new set of perceptions again. I understand life from different perspectives. Now, when, you know, when people look at me and people who know me, they have a question for me. They ask me that, Audrey, what makes you the way you are? In the sense, they just want to know, where am I getting this never say die attitude? Where is it coming from? What makes you want to go on and on all the time, doing something or the other? And I can give you maybe just two examples to help you understand a little bit about, myself a little more deeply. So, as an entrepreneur, when I talked about setting up a flying system, creating aerosports facilities, I partnered with my life partner, and he eventually became my husband. And together we set up a flying facility where people could come and fly, experience affordable aviation. And about 21 years down the line, we have a fleet of 3 aircrafts and 3 kids. Now, in the business part of it, we didn't really have investors. And there was no capital funding. And we didn't come with any inheritance of any sort. So we just worked this out by being there out in the field every day and working really hard. Likewise, I partnered with my family, my mom, my sisters, my brother. Together we set up this school, and like I said, the school creates wonderful experiences and has a great environment. Once again, I don't have investors, and I really didn't have any capital to start a school. So in 10 years, I have about 235 children attending school. I don't think either of these models are going to be discussed in any business school in terms of how to make profits and how to make money. And I don't think these models would find a space in history. But personally, I have reaped a lot out of what I've done. And what did I get? My profits are huge, because what I actually have is like job satisfaction. And what I have is, I've had plenty of time with my children. I've just enjoyed every little moment, even with family. I've enjoyed interacting with children, like I told you already. In the bargain of doing all this, even as a mother, flying little by little by little, I didn't realize that I was actually getting records to my credit. And I didn't do it for the records. I did it for the sheer love of flying. But I lost, like I said, when you hit a high, you're going to hit a low. And so I lost out on a lot of things as well. One of the things I really love to do is to travel a lot. But one of the things I wanted to do was to be this great planner. And I spaced out my children 5 years apart. So it's like the 5-year plan of the government. You have every 5 years there was a kid. And for the last 15 years, I'm just raising kids. So I missed out on travel time. Typically, at the age of 42, if you met a pilot, by now, they would have piled in many thousands of hours. I haven't done that. I have thousands of landings because of the number of people I've flown. But I don't have thousands of hours of flying as yet. I lost out on, health. There were times when I'd hit a low and suffered with a lot of bad kind of times with all kinds of crazy illnesses of sorts. And very recently, I hit a very big low with a couple of things. My own fitness level, I was a very fit girl. I played a lot of sport, and I was known to be a very fit girl. But over time, doing what I was doing, I realized I wasn't caring for myself enough, and I had hit a low with last year in Ooty, in the summers, we were right here, and I was 15 kgs heavier than what you see me today. And while I was dealing with all of this, I also had to end my marriage. And so my marriage of 21 years came to an end. And simultaneously, this wow introduction that I got, that I was going to circumnavigate the earth on a motor glider. Listen carefully. A glider does not have an engine. So a motor glider was designed to put an engine into a glider. Now it's a really little tiny plane, and I was hoping, and I trained very hard over the last year to be able to attempt a circumnavigation around the earth, a one-of-its-kind record for a woman or a man from India to set. This was stalled for a variety of reasons. The project hasn't yet taken off. And so, my point is that it is natural that even for people like us who are achievers, we hit a lot of disappointments in this road and in this journey of our life. And when you hit a low, and when you are deeply disappointed, I mean, people may ask me, Audrey, how do you bounce back or something? But in that moment, my reactions are absolutely normal, like normal people. Of course, I go bonkers, and I have gone bonkers. And to define it in flying terms, I would like to say it's like being in an aircraft which has gone into a state of spin. So it's coming down, and it then starts spiraling towards the ground. And then you find that there is a huge emergency-like situation. You're literally succumbing to Mr. Newton because of the laws of gravity. You're getting pulled down at a very rapid speed. The weight is bringing you down. You know you're really literally going to crash and land with a big thud. And that's what is typically happening when you are not in the right state of mind. And then surprisingly, every time this happens to me, I find that this little factor of hope that I spoke about, it does something to me. It kindles me again, and it lightens me up. It lifts me up, and I straighten myself up, and I sit back and take charge. And so if my life was my craft, then I apply everything I learned in terms of an emergency reaction. So I find myself, short of maybe hitting the ground, I've managed to put in the necessary emergency reaction in place, do the right thing, get this aircraft back into some kind of balance, regain control, get back to start flying again. And then maybe attempt a landing which could be a little gentle. So most of us, it is natural, and it has to be true for all of us, we do face disappointments, isn't it? Yes? That's it, only that many disappointments. Do we face disappointments? Yes, of course. Sometimes it's a simple no from your parents, which can be very frustrating. Sometimes it could be just not getting your favorite gadget, maybe when you wanted it. Sometimes it is not being appreciated by your teacher or your parent. Sometimes it could be just, somebody else is doing something more fancy than you. Somebody else is wearing, that latest brand that you so wanted. It could be anything that in your point in time makes you feel low and disappointed. It could be just something as simple as standing in front of a mirror, which wasn't supposed to be a very tedious task. But today, I believe the youth is faced with a lot of, maybe not only the youth, I believe even my age group of women and men today, sometimes we stand in front of the mirror and we're not happy about what we see. And we feel sometimes a bit ashamed of ourselves. So disappointments can come in from any sector and from any segment and in any situation. And the only thing that I can share from my life with you is that, you got to be able to think at that point in time of a moment in your life that can uplift you. And although I can't check if you're really going to do what I'm going to ask you to, if you closed your eyes for just a minute, would you be able to recount a very happy experience in your life? And if you can, then such kind of instances, if you can reach out to that moment of happiness and apply it to this moment of sadness in your life, you might be able to bounce back. You might be able to come back and shake yourself up and get back to trying all over again. And I want to just end my challenge to all of you today by giving you small little tips on how you could live life microlight. So, one of the first things I'd really advocate for is to experience lightness. Now, experiencing lightness can be two-way. First is you got to shed all the excessive weight and baggage. See, aircrafts are always designed by its all-up weight. That's the max it can take. If you put more than that, you're asking for trouble. So, drawing from that, I'd like to say shed all the extras out of your life. Shed it. It's difficult. It could be a painful relationship. It could be just physically, you need to feel lighter, like what I have luckily experienced in the last 1 year. It could be just shaking off your inhibitions. It could be something that is weighing you down very heavily. But you've got to experience this lightness to be able to take up the challenge that I offered you. The second one is to visualize this lightness. So visual drills are great to succeed in anything that you do. You've got to be able to close your eyes and visualize. So, if I had a 5 kg stone that I could throw from a 4-story building, which could be about, no, it has to be many more feet high. Maybe a 10, 15-story building. I'm talking about approximately 1,000 feet, so at least 10-story high building. I want to drop a 5 kg stone. And if I just release that stone, you know what the outcome would be. And from my previous slide, if you could imagine a whole bag of feathers of 5 kg being released from on top of the same height, 1,000 feet. My drill on visualization and my experience, my personal experience says, it helps to break down anything that is burdening you. Break it down into small, little, itsy bitsy pieces, make them feather light. And then the feathers will actually float around and flutter around and very gently come back and land down. Okay? So visualization is such an exciting drill for any kind of success that you're seeking. The other thing that would really help you, the third thing, is to minimize. Minimize, again, is twofold. On one hand, it's the physical. That means you got to try and reduce everything that you want to own and acquire and, stop cluttering your cupboards, your rooms, your spaces with things that you're not really in need of and you may not want much of. But while that's the physical side of it, an ex-student of Lawrence Lovedale, a dear friend, gifted me a book many years ago which said, "Awaken the giant within you." And my challenge is to say, awaken the child within you. Because each of you has an innate child within you. You have a child within you. And look at a child. A child is normally lighthearted, footloose, fancy-free, very energetic, and generally very happy. You'd be worried if a child wasn't like that. So to come back into the state of being a child is extremely helpful to feeling microlight. The last bit that I want to leave with you today, the mantra, is actually already on your stage here and part of your title. The capital 3-letter word there says you. So you have to be you. To experience, to be yourself is really tough. And I want to implore all of you here not to really try and be that superhero whose movies you don't get enough of, and don't try to be that rock star whose music you haven't got enough of. Don't even try to be that sportsman whom you so adore and because of whom you're playing that sport. Don't, of course, be one of your teachers. You can draw inspiration from all these people, but you have to find out who you really are. You have to be you. And if you are you, it really boils down to an I. And I am so light. It's so easy. Now that's a challenge, isn't it? To just be you. So I'll come back to showing you a picture of the same microlight. By virtue of design, you are designed to be an individual. You're also designed to be successful. You are innately designed to not be limited by anything. You're also designed to be part of communities. And I think if you can just be you, you could live life microlight. Thank you.